Thank you for your interest in working with the UMass Humanities and Fine Arts intern. I'm Dee Boyle-Clapp, Director of the Arts Extension Service. I also oversee the Arts Entrepreneurship Initiative, through which we've been working to connect artists, arts organizations, and creative businesses with interns for over 5 years. I'm always humbled by the willingness of busy, creative people to give time to a student by offering an internship and by being an internship provider. By working with an intern, you of course get the benefit of their time, talent, and interest, and their help, but you're also providing to the intern more than you can imagine. You're opening a door into your world, and you're helping them to see themselves in a similar role in their future. You're teaching them skills that they will need to succeed, and you're showing them what it means to be a professional, not just a student. As you create your internship position, please remember a few things. First, by law, this must not replace a paid job. Your internship must be an educational experience, so if you teach the student to use specific software as they support your social media, or if you teach them how to conduct research for you to support your fundraising campaign, you can be compliant. To make it easier, we've created some internship templates for the most common types of internships, and you can find them on our internship provider frequently asked question page. Second, decide if the internship will be remote or in person. Until the pandemic and the variants are under control, it will be incumbent upon you to make sure that your internship meets standards for safety set by the state and federal government. We have an MOU for you to sign for any in-person internship, and we're also here to help either answer your questions or to refer you to a source that can. Don't panic, it won't be that hard. Third, make the hours realistic. Many of our students carry a full load and a part-time job, and they also perform in plays or concerts, or they have exhibitions of their own to prepare for. They will be busy, but they want to help. So a 5 to 10 hour week internship is generally plenty for most students. Finally, do you need to pay an intern? COVID has hit our field very hard, but if you can offer a stipend, that will make your internship more competitive. Some students will earn credit for your internship, but remember, they're paying for the credits, so any support you can provide will help. Again, thank you for your support of our students. Thank you for your internship. And if you can, we look forward to seeing you at the virtual internship fair. Remember, we're here to help you. Our internship frequently asked questions page has some excellent resources, as well as the amazing toolkit that Burns Maxey and I will now share with you. So, number one is start with an orientation. A bunch of years ago, I took part in this leadership training, and they were talking about how as new employees would come in, the sort of standard practice was that you would arrive at your new job, and the person who was responsible for you would go, oh, you're here today? Oh, okay, let me put you over here because Susie's hasn't left yet, and we'll figure out where to put your coat and hat. And I have a meeting right now, but here's the manual. So as you sit there and read it, and I'll come back at lunchtime. And that sets everybody up to go, oh, first, I wasn't valued. Second, I have no idea how organized or disorganized this place is going to be. And it's a bad first impression. So what we're really going to recommend is that you create a really clear orientation for the student. I'm not going to read all of this, but the bottom line really is make their welcome feel real. Make them understand what it is you're expecting of them and how they're supposed to actually make things work for you. How are they going to get into the space? Are you going to give them passwords to everything? How do they get into your website? How do they get into whatever it is that you need? When we have student workers at the Arts Extension Service and interns, we often give them access to parts of our databases, but not everything. So just make sure that you recognize what it is you want them to do and make sure they have the tools that they need in order to make their work happen. The other thing is that we want the students to really understand what it is that they need to be doing for you and come to you with the very best that they possibly can bring in on the first day as well. In many regards, that's Caroline's job. Next, please. Burns, this one's you.
It's really important that you start off on the right foot. And by doing that, you want to create a structured communication with flexible work times. So things are different now, right? So everybody is remote. We're connecting through online communications, and students have different classes, or different class schedules. So you'll need to work with that, but you really need to establish right at the forefront when you're meeting and what times you're meeting. We recommend that you meet at least twice a week, And something that I have done that I think has been successful is I usually build out 45 minutes to an hour per each meeting, have one at the beginning of the week and one at the end of the week. We may not go that long for each of those meetings, but it gives us the time just in case we're working on a project or the intern is working on a project and needs a little more time and help to get through that project. And honestly, the more you're connecting with your intern, the better the work will be in the end, and the better it'll help your organization or the work that you're working on. So think about that. I usually think about it as, you know, if I'm spending 2 hours a week with an intern, imagine that you were in the office or you were in the studio. You would be seeing potentially that intern every day or a couple of times a week, and you might be connecting with them throughout the time that they're in the space. So it really works well. Have them track their hours each week. I find this is really good because not just because it helps them learn how to budget time, but it lets you know what they're working on. So if you give an intern, you decide with the intern when they will be working, say 10 to 2 on Mondays through Fridays. They can log in, connect with you, let them know what they're working on. And when they log out, you might want to just establish that they email you and say, hey, these are some things that I worked on today. This is what didn't work. This is what did work. And that way you'll all be on the same page. We're all different. Interns are people, and they have all different experiences and organizational skills. If you establish these things up front, these schedules up front, it's going to help you in the end. I think also, as you consider students and their schedules, their academic schedule has really changed this year. We're starting school sooner than expected. And so they might have midterms and deadlines that they need to attend to. Make sure that you check in somewhere along the line during the semester and make sure that you know when those deadlines are or when those midterms are, because it's likely that their work is going to be different or they will be unavailable during those times.
Great. If I could add one thought, if you have an online calendar and you give them a space in that online calendar to upload from the very beginning when midterms are, if there are any special holidays that they are not going to be able to work because it's a religious holiday or something else, have them do that early so then you know from the get-go, and then just fill in as you go. That would be something that could help. Great. Next. Okay. The other piece of we wanted to share is that everybody knows that you work harder on something that you're really, really interested in. So what we've found over the years is that the best internships have been when students have come to an employer or an internship provider and said, could I do this kind of project with you? And those have been really successful over time. We've also found that if a student wants to learn something specific and they get that opportunity to do that while they're working with you, it makes an enormous difference, not only in their interest level, but also the quality of their work. So make sure that you can actually ascertain from the very beginning, what is it that they want to learn? What kinds of opportunities do they want to be exposed to? What do they want to see? What do they want to do? And try to give that to them as much as you possibly can. Those are things that really matter to the students and also to us. Just as an example, I had an intern a number of years ago who was interested in grant research. Well, UMass has some really cool things that Burns will talk about later, but one of them is access to an online database for foundations. Well, that was great. The student had no idea. So getting them that opportunity to connect with the tools that they can access for free are really awesome. So what we did is we worked with that student, taught them where to look, and they were really off and running. The other sort of piece of wonderful news is that they want to learn how to do grant research. Perhaps you would like a grant, so they could be doing that learning on your behalf, which is the whole point of having an intern. There's got to be that shared push-pull of like, I need this, you need that. Let's share this together and help figure out like what's that right balance. The other piece is try not to give your intern grunt work. You want them to do work that's going to be really challenging for them and work that you really need done. We often find that project-based work is really something that they can get their teeth into and really work on. And it also can happen within this time frame of a semester. Next.
And Dee, I'll just add to that at the end of this past summer with the interns that I was working with, I asked them before, gave it maybe a month before and said, we've been doing all this work together. What's something that we haven't done together that you want to work on? And what came out of that was one student created a video because she wanted to learn how to do video and video editing. And now Arts Extension will have this video. And then another was a student who was doing fundraising work with an organization that I work with. And she really wanted to learn about databases. I mean, how uber wonderfully nerdy is that? And I just was like, I adore you. That's great. Let's dive into databases. And so she helped out with a project and we made it a hands-on project so she could learn what our content relationship management system was like. So you never know.
Great, thank you. Next tip is provide clear, timely feedback and give a context. So clarity matters with students. They're often new to working in a professional environment. They're probably new to your field. They don't understand your language. They may not understand what kind of verbiage you use. In our office, we're constantly like, did you contact AFTA about APAP? I mean, it's like, who the heck are we talking about? So make sure that they understand what you're talking about. So let them know what those matter. The other thing we'd really like to recommend is that deadlines matter for students. They really need to be told when you need something and why. Try to help set them up to win. So for example, if you need part A of a report that you're working on and you want them to go find 10 images and clean them up so that you can put them into your report, tell them why you're doing the project that they're doing and give them a deadline. Tell them where to put this information so that you can access it. Also, if you just give people a whole huge long task list and you don't prioritize for them, they're not going to pick things done in the order in which you want them finished. So make sure that you give them an idea of what you want, when you need it, and also just like what the deadlines are. The other piece too is try to give them feedback. If they did a project for you and you felt like this was only half-baked, be really careful. Make sure that they understand what your criteria are and what your expectations are for them. Some of those things really matter. I do have to say that I've been teaching on this campus for since 2011, and to this day it still blows my mind that a 20-year-old will come up and go, did you want that in size 11 font or 12? Do you want it single-spaced or double-spaced? And it's like, really? Oh my God, just get your papers in. But it says to me that they are so accustomed to being told what to do. They want that, they want the boundaries, and they want to know what it is that you want. So if you can provide them maybe not that level of detail, but give them a context of what you need and how, that will really help them to succeed. Next.
So we've talked a little bit about the tools that are available, but there's a lot more out there. And because UMass is a great institution that offers a lot of resources to students, this is a way for you to really dip into those resources and utilize them with the student. UMass students have access to Zoom, Google Drive, Google Calendar, many more, Box. Having your think about it as, you're sharing information with an intern. The best way to do that is obviously remotely through cloud-based programs and using Google Drive or Box, some sort of cloud-based program to share your documents and files. Having that set up before you even begin with the internship is really a good idea. So and you establish how you're sharing your files and systems, and you're not wasting time trying to figure out where that file is. Another group of tools that are really helpful are project management tools. Asana, Basecamp, Trello, things like that can be helpful. They take a little bit of initial organization, but essentially you can create a calendar for projects and assign those tasks to students. And when you assign the task to the intern, they'll be alerted that that task is due. And once it's due and they've done it, they can check it off and you'll get an alert to your email. So that cuts down on the need for additional meetings, additional emails, and you can just have the projects mapped out. For example, some projects that I've mapped out before are marketing projects, say like a social media calendar. So you have that calendar set up on that project manager, and they're alerted, hey, you need to create a post for this coming week. And they know that. You've talked about it at your meeting, they're reminded, and you know it's been done.
Great, thank you. Good. Another tip that we have for you is to please engage students with your colleagues, either your coworkers or people that you may work with out in your field, depending upon how it is that you are set up. Working remotely is really, really fun for a while. And then it gets incredibly lonely, especially if you're a person who's accustomed to being around a lot of other people. So the students are really, as I said earlier, kind of getting tired of being in their basement or the room that they grew up with or grew up in. Also, some of the students are actually, very few will be on campus, but for those who are, they're going to be in a dorm that's going to be pretty darn empty. So the more you can engage them and invite them to participate in things with you, the more they're going to feel connected to the project and to your institution. We recommend that you try to invite them at minimum to come to your events, whatever events those might be. If you're having a conference, if you have we have a weekly staff meeting, if they can participate. If you want them to, give them an opportunity to like take notes for you so that they're there and they feel like they have a task, as opposed to sitting in the back and don't know what they're doing or what they're listening to. Another really important reason that we think internships are so great and that interns are so wonderful is that they bring a really fresh perspective to you. They don't know the ins and outs of why you do something. So if you ask them a question in the middle of a meeting about something that you're considering, we often turn to our student workers or our interns and say, hey, what do you think about that? And to my complete horror most of the time, they'll be like, no, that's really dumb because that doesn't work for students for X, Y, and Z reasons. And it's like, oh, of course that makes sense. But as a person who's not a student any longer, that doesn't make sense to us. So use this moment when they're still fresh and they don't know the ins and outs of your organization. The other reason it's really helpful to invite them to things or meet other people is that one of the really important reasons that people intern is that they can learn to connect with people and they can build their networks. So even though we are all working remotely right now, some of the most important conversations that I know I have during the week is when I stop and actually get on the phone with somebody and just have a conversation and reconnect as a human being and not as a person working all the time. It's an opportunity for students to meet people, to talk about and ask people what it is that they love about their careers and their jobs, and just start to build their networks. So that's my 2 cents on number 6. Whoops, pardon me, that's my time was up for that. Burns.
So evaluation and constructive feedback is going to be instrumental along the way. Each week when you're talking to your intern in one of those meetings, give them some feedback. Ask what you could both do better, what's working, what's not working. Let them know what's working for you. I think something that often we run into on remote communication is just not understanding what's going on, because we're all in our siloed, worlds here, trying to connect the best way that we can, and we don't have that interactive communication that we're used to. So this is the way you should really make sure you're on the same page, be upfront about it. Something that I have done in the past that has been successful has been asking interns for a write-up of all the things that they've done. And this is a how-to for your next intern. So you're essentially creating that how-to for the future. And then ask them for an internal review of their experience. So you know what's worked and what hasn't worked and what you can do better the next time around.
Right. I'm going to add 2 comments to that. One is that I often, students may take internships for credit. If they do credit internships, 3 credits equals 9 hours a week. That's a lot of time. It's an awful lot of time. So do keep that in mind. When I am the faculty advisor for students who are actually taking internships for credit, I start off with the premise that they must right up front say on paper what it is that they want to learn. And then in the middle of the semester, they have to say what they've been working on. And at the end, they have to wrap up and do a comparison of what did I hope to learn, what did I learn, and what happened, what did I wish had happened, so that they think about these things all the way through the process. Another thing I think I failed to say earlier was that when you communicate with students, everybody's different. I am a visual artist. I am really visual. If you sit down and talk to me and give me instructions by orally, I won't get it. I have to either write it down or see it. So make sure that you recognize and ask your student, how do they hear information and how do they process information best, so that they can actually have an opportunity to really do what, what it is that they need to for you, and make sure that they're working for you.